Good morning, everyone. How are y'all doing today? Okay, I'm not even going to ask you to do that again, but I hope that for the rest of this conference that we are going to have a time here that's not only enjoyable, but one that you can learn, get together, make new connections. You know, one of the good things about being at a conference is the connections that you're making. And I remember being at a meeting a few years ago and meeting many of you that are in this room now. And it's so good to see the commitment that continues for criminal justice reform. My name is Ed Chung. I'm the Vice President for the Center for American Progress on Criminal Justice Reform. We're excited to be co-hosting this event again this year. This is the second year we're doing this here at John Jay College, along with the Draper Richards Kaplan Foundation. You know, last year we were here because we wanted to host an event that brought people together, that re-energized all of us, in a changing national environment. We want to get people together to make a commitment to shrinking the criminal justice system and to showcase innovations in this space that are working and that are changing communities and making sure that we're doing it in a safe, in a smart, and an equitable way. We're back again this year to do that and more. Because frankly, friends, doing just that isn't good enough. Don't get me wrong, we need it. We need to connect, we need to showcase innovations, we need to continue momentum for reform. But there are hard questions in this movement and in the criminal justice reform system and in all of our communities that need answers and solutions. Hard questions that we haven't fully, as a movement, really invested in or really delved into. It's not enough for us to focus on low-level, nonviolent offenses. We need to address violence in smart and just ways as well. It's not enough to give lip service to addressing racial disparities. We need solutions that actually reduce and eliminate inequalities. And it's not enough to talk about those impacted by the justice system. Survivors and the justice involved must be at the center of this movement. So I'm glad to have partnered on this conference with a bunch of folks who are listed on this screen who are committed to those exact same things. This steering committee are some of the foremost leaders in criminal justice reform, representing a diversity of thought and experience. And I want to thank them for their commitment to fairness and justice and improving the lives of all Americans, especially those who are underserved and marginalized. If you can join me in giving this steering committee a round of applause. I also want to express gratitude to the sponsors of this conference. The Laura and John Arnold Foundation, which has a commitment to data, evidence, and research to transform the justice system. The Joyce Foundation, committed to reducing gun violence and while improving the fairness of the criminal justice system. The MacArthur Foundation's Safety and Justice Challenge, which is encouraging and incentivizing jurisdictions to rethink how they use jails. Forward.us, which works to fix our broken immigration and criminal justice systems, driving change starting with those directly impacted. The Coalition for Public Safety, the largest bipartisan effort working to reform the criminal justice system. And the Draper Richards Kaplan Foundation, which supports passionate, high-impact social enterprises tackling some of the most challenging issues in our communities. Join me again in thanking the sponsors for this conference. And last but certainly not least, this is a list of people, probably a partial list of staff who have worked tirelessly to put this conference together. They are wearing t-shirts like this. We're not only doing this because I hate ties and collared shirts. It's because if you're wearing this, it's those people who are actually, who have worked to put this conference together. Ask them questions. Light bulb and questions don't actually necessarily go straight together, but ask them questions if you need any directions. But of this group, I really want to specifically thank Heather Conley from John Jay College and also Leah Hunter on my team. This was second year. Leah, Heather, and I have put this conference together. So again, last time, join me in thanking these folks as well. The hashtag for today is hashtag #SmartOnCrime. We encourage you to take a ton of photos, videos even. Please do not use flash photography. Last year, I screwed up the Wi-Fi password multiple times. So what we did was we put it nicely and conveniently on your badge. So I am not going to do that again this year. But I want to thank you all for joining us today. The reason I'm standing awkwardly on this podium is not because I'm uncomfortable, but because we have a little stool or step stool here, because the next speaker coming up is somebody who kind of needs that step stool. But she is somebody whose stature goes way beyond anything in terms of physical height. My friend Karol Mason, my mentor Karol Mason, president of this college, is such a wonderful partner, a wonderful friend, somebody who, if you meet and know, it's a benefit to you. And so I want to thank Karol for her friendship and for being my mentor. I want to thank John Jay for co-hosting this conference and for hosting all of us. Please join me in welcoming the president of John Jay College, Karol Mason.
So I'm going to say this before he disappears, but he already did it. For years, I have wanted to thank Ed in person. So please join me and give me a big round of applause for Ed Chung. Because in case you don't know, this conference would not have happened without Ed. He did all of the work this year, and I just get to take credit for everything that he's done. So when you see him, make sure you say thank you to him. So good morning. Yeah, unlike Ed, I'm going to make sure I hear you all say good morning back. Good morning. Yeah, it's a rainy day, but it's a happy day in here because we're going to get some work done. So I'd like to welcome all of you all to John Jay College of Criminal Justice and our second annual Smart on Crime Innovations Conference. And notice the word second. This is going to be continuing. The questions we tackle and the form in which we operate will change. But this is something that, can we agree that this is something we're going to need for quite a while? Anybody think that we don't need this? Okay. Yeah, everybody who's supportive of changing our criminal justice system and making it better and understanding that it's going to take some time, please let me know. Yeah, okay. So, in case you don't know, John Jay's mission is to educate for justice and to develop fierce advocates for justice. And I must say that last year I'd only been working a couple of weeks, and Jeremy Travis, who's sitting right there, was the longtime president of John Jay. Let's give Jeremy a round of applause. Because what he did is laid the foundation on which we are building this work. He's the one that raised John Jay's profile and let us know that this was the place to tackle these tough issues. And I have to give my little brother Ron Davis, who was head of the cops office when I was at OJP, a shout out as well, because he was always coming to John Jay for things. And I was like, oh my goodness, this John Jay is really a mover and a shaker. So my challenge is to keep the trajectory that Jeremy started moving forward, and with you all, I have no doubt we will do that. So that's why there's no better place in the world for this conference, because of our mission for justice and to educate fierce advocates for justice. John Jay is a place where everyone's voice is heard, and as Secretary of State for New York, Rosanna Rosado, always says, she says that John Jay is the United Nations of criminal justice. It's the place, the safe place where all voices can come to meet. And given that the General Assembly of the UN is in session right now, I think it's very fitting that we are in session at the UN of Criminal Justice as well. So I hope that you will know that we're here to talk about difficult issues and share vital information. And I know that we've been all thinking about that a lot lately. I think you may be aware that we have an investigation underway here at John Jay regarding allegations of misconduct by certain professors. While it would be inappropriate to discuss details of the investigation, I want to note that I am committed to ensuring our college continues to be a safe, respectful, and inclusive environment for all members of our community. And I believe that the process we're following will strengthen our community. We need to be that safe place if we're going to address difficult issues like the ones we're here to address today. We need everyone to feel empowered to share their best thinking. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican, a conservative or a liberal, from the city, the suburbs, or rural communities, we're all here for the same reason: to rethink our criminal justice system, make it more equitable and fair, regardless of race, gender, or socioeconomic status. That's the goal. That's the opportunity that lies before us. And one of the things that makes this conference so special is I love telling people that we have very unlikely partnerships happening here because we're all committed to the same founding principles of justice and fairness. And so that means we're going to have to truly listen to each other today, as we always do, because that's the hallmark of this group, and that's why this is our second annual. It's the second annual at John Jay, but we've all, as Ed mentioned earlier, we've been all doing this work together long before we started coming to this conference here at John Jay, and that's what makes this work special. The truth of the matter, as we know, is that people from across the political spectrum are equally committed to criminal justice reform. And as long as we stay focused on that, focused on our common goals, our common interest in living up to the best ideals of this conference, we will be successful in this work. We already are. We already are because of everybody in this room. So at this year's Smarter on Crime Innovations Conference, we've made a conscious decision to tackle some of the toughest questions regarding criminal justice. That means, as Ed said, we're going to talk about race, bias, and disparities, because that's the only way that we can fully understand our history and how that has placed us in our current situation. It's the only way that we can level the playing field and give everyone the opportunity to succeed, because that's what we all want. We want a country where everybody is thriving and has an opportunity to contribute, because that's what's going to keep propelling us into continuing to be the leading country in the world. Luckily, we're not going to have these conversations blindly. We're fortunate to have at least one of the greatest criminal justice institutions in the world as the host for this event. And no, I'm not modest about what John Jay's role is, you know? Would you expect me to be any different? No. So here at John Jay, our impressive faculty and students are always doing the groundbreaking work on research on criminal justice issues in partnership with all of you in the room, because that's the key thing to remember, is none of this work happens in a vacuum. None of this work happens in a silo. We've got to be able to network and communicate and collaborate with each other if we want to see long-term sustainable changes. So you can read more about the work that's happening at John Jay in this publication called Impact, which is out there. Yes, I'm doing some advertising. We got this published just in time for the conference, so I hope that you all will all pick one up. And Justice Matters, which is also out there for you to pick up. It's this research and data that informs, we hope, policymakers that make the rules that impact all of our lives and that we hope will impact the change we all want to see. During the Obama administration, I had the good fortune to be the Assistant Attorney General at the Office of Justice Programs, and I like to tell people I had a $4 billion purse at that time. And many of you were recipients of the OJP money, and I said to many of you who I won't call out now, will you still know me when I don't have that purse? And I'm grateful that you still know me when I now have my hand out, looking for your support to continue this work. So we know that as part of that work, that data is important. It's the critical equation in putting inequities in clear focus. Today, we have multiple studies and reports that are proving that people of color are disproportionately impacted by the criminal justice system. But the question is, what are we going to do with this information? How do we use this data to help the people who are tied up in our criminal justice system, who ought to be sitting among us, and many of them are, contributing to our work and contributing to our communities? You know the data, 2.2 million people in prison across the country, 11 million cycling through our jails every year. And we spend too much money incarcerating people. Think about what we could do with those billions, $80 billion, if we invested in early childhood education, education generally, public health, mental health. If we put that money into investing in people instead of in prisons, in jails, we would be so much better as a country. So it's time, yes, Joanna and Lisa, to stop criminalizing poverty. It's time for us to create pathways for all Americans. So this year at John Jay, we had an interactive solitary confinement cell, and my time is up, so but I want to talk about something that I put on the virtual reality glasses, and Johnny Perez talked to us later about the 3.5 years that he spent, or 3 years he spent in solitary confinement over 13 years, and he made an analogy that I hope we all take with us. He said, when you see a concrete sidewalk, and there are just a few blades of grass coming up through the cracks in that concrete, think how much more that grass would grow if it were in an open field. And that's the job we have today, is to remove the concrete, not just metaphorically, but physically, that surrounds too many people that are caught up in our criminal justice system. So, those of you who know me know I like to ask questions. How many of you are here to work the next 2 days? Yeah. And how many of you believe, like me, that if all of us continue to do the work that we're doing and to continue to tackle the hard questions, that no matter what the rhetoric is that comes out of the media, we can make this a better world for everyone? Okay. I know I do, so I'm counting on you guys. So, my time is up. I am going to let Ed move on to the rest of the program, but thank you all for being here, and thank you for your constant, unwavering support of this work. We really do need you in this, so thank you.